And now that you have your foldable for slope-intercept form all put together and glued to your piece of paper, let's get started. At the very top of the paper, I would like you to write slope, intercept, form. And what slope-intercept form is a specific way that we can write the equation of a line. So we write it as y equals mx plus b. Now, as we've been learning about slope this unit, you've already seen the m before, and m still represents slope. B is the only thing that's kind of new. B represents something you already know. It represents the y-intercept. So again, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis on the graph. Y-intercept crosses the y-axis. So how's that going to help you graph a line? So let's take a look now at example 1. And example 1 is going to be inside our foldable. Step 1 is to rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. If you open up the flap for step 1, you should already see that you have the equation x plus 2y equals 4 on your note taker. So we now need to get this equation to look like this equation. So we need to get y by itself. We're going to subtract x from both sides, and we get x minus x is 0, and we're left with just 2y equals negative x plus 4. I then need to divide both sides by 2 to get y all the way by itself, because 2 divided by 2 is 1y. This negative x is like negative 1x, and negative 1 divided by 2 is negative 1/2 x, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now I have my equation in y equals mx plus b form. Step 2 wants us to identify the slope, or m, and the y-intercept b from this equation. So we know that y equals mx plus b. So m is the part in front of the x. It's the coefficient for the x term. So this 1/2 here, or negative 1/2, is our m. So if we flip open step 2, m is equal to negative 1/2. Which part of this equation do you think is the b? Hopefully you said 2. The constant 2 is our b. Now this is a positive 2, so plus 2, our y-intercept becomes a positive 2. How is this going to help us graph? Let's look at step 3. Step 3 wants us to plot the y-intercept b. Well, our y-intercept is 2. We found that b equals 2. We can also say that the coordinate point then is 0, 2, because again, it's the y-intercept, so the x value must be 0. We find where positive 2 is on the y-axis. The vertical axis, the one that goes up and down, is the y-axis. So there's positive 1, and there's positive 2. So now we've finished up step 3. Step 4 wants us to use slope, m, to plot the additional points starting from the y-intercept. So if we look back up here at step 2, we know that our slope equals negative 1/2. So we know that m equals rise over run, and that our slope is negative 1/2. Well, that negative 1/2 means that we are going to go down 1 and over 2 in order to get to our next point. So if we start where our y-intercept is, and we go down 1 over 2, we find that our next point is right here. We can go ahead and do it again. We'll go down 1 over 2, and we find our next point. And then one more time for good measure, our slope is down 1 over 2. So we're going to go down 1 over 2. And we find one more point. So now all that's left to do is to connect the dots. Hold up a sheet of paper so that I have a straight edge. And now I have the graph of the equation x plus 2y equals 4. Alright, so let's do another example. Go ahead and fold those down. So above one of your other graphs, I want you to write example 2, graph. We're going to graph the equation y equals 3x minus 2. Okay? So I want you to flip open this. And again, we're going to write down that equation. It's y equals 3x minus 2. So we need to, first step 1, rewrite the equation so that it is in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So we need y to be by itself. Well, in this equation, y is by itself. So we're already there. This is y equals mx plus b form. Step 2 is to identify your slope and your y-intercept. So we need to know what m equals and what b equals. So from this equation, we can see that our m is 3 and that our b is negative 2. We have to include the sign that's in front of the constant. It is a negative 2. So our slope, which is rise over run, is a positive 3, which we can also write as 3 over 1. So we're going to go up 3 and to the right 1. And our y-intercept, which is b, remember b equals the y-intercept, is at negative 2, or the coordinate point 0, comma, negative 2. So step 3 is to plot the y-intercept. So I find my y-axis, and I got to find where negative, it's negative 2, where negative 2 is on the y-axis. So there's 0, that's negative 1, there's negative 2. And then step 4 is to use the slope to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. So there's my y-intercept, and my slope is positive 3. So I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. And there's my next point. And then I'm going to go up 3 and to the right 1. And there's another point. So now I can connect the dots. And I have successfully graphed the line. So let's do one more example together. We're going to do this time example 3. We're going to graph the equation 2x plus y equals 3. So let's flip up this flap, rewrite that equation. It is 2x plus y equals 3. So step 1 is to get that into slope-intercept form. So y is not by itself, so we need to get it by itself. We need to move this 2x. So we're going to do that by subtracting 2x from both sides. I get y by itself on this side because 2x minus 2x is 0. And then I'm going to write the negative 2x first because I want it to be mx plus b. And then that's a positive 3, so it's a plus 3. So I subtracted 2x from both sides, and I got the negative 2x. And then I still had a positive 3 up there, so now I have a plus 3. So now I want you to identify what is your slope and what is your y-intercept. Okay. Hopefully at this point you have said that your slope, or m, is negative 2, and that your y-intercept is 3. Step 3 is to plot the y-intercept. So we find our y-axis, and we need to locate where 3 is on that axis. So it's a positive 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we can move on to step 4, which is to use the slope to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. So our slope is negative 2, which is the same as negative 2 over 1. So we are going to go down 2 and over 1. So we'll go down 2 over 1. And then we will go down 2 over 1. And then we can connect our dots with a straight line. And that's it. We've now graphed the equation 2x plus 3y. Now we're going to get a worksheet to kind of practice this on your own. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.